We're back in session, Ohio Board of Embalmers and Funeral Directors at 1:17 p.m. on July 26, 2016.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion pursuant to section 4717.03 of the Ohio Revised Code. I hereby move to appoint Eric Griffin as the interim executive director of the Ohio Board of Embalmers and Funeral Directors effective immediately. The interim executive director shall have the same authority and responsibility as the executive director of the board until such time as modified by the board.
Is there a second, please?
Yes.
Seconded by Mrs. Pugh. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote.
Mrs. Pugh?
Yes.
Mr. Dotson?
Yes.
Mr. Tannen?
Yes.
Mr. Wapner, yes. Mr. Reddick?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Very good.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion. I hereby move that the board enter into an interagency exchange agreement with the Ohio Board of Pharmacy in accordance with section 124.389 of the Ohio Revised Code to allow for the assignment of Eric Griffin from the Ohio Pharmacy Board to the Ohio Board of Embalmers and Funeral Directors to act as the interim executive director of the OBEFD.
Is there a second, please?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Dodson. Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, we'll call roll.
Mr. Tannen?
Yes.
Mr. Dotson?
Yes.
Mrs. Pugh?
Yes.
Mr. Reddick?
Yes.
Mr. Wapner? Yes.
Thank you. Motion carried.
Motion carries.
Mr. Griffin, you want to join us here, please?
Thank you. Mr. Reddick, may I have a moment to help Mr. Dotson keep
Yes.
back on to
Certainly.
the house?
Mhm. Welcome aboard, Mr. Griffin. Do you have any comments you'd like to make at this time?
I am honored, and I thank the board for this opportunity, and hope that I can serve you in the best capacities I can. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving along. We have a person appearing before the board today, a Mr. James I. Warren, who's an applicant for a dual apprenticeship. Mr. Warren, would you please take a seat up here so that, and make sure you speak clearly.
Okay.
And the floor is yours.
Hello, my name is James Warren. I'm a graduate of Pittsburgh Institute of Mortuary Science with a bachelor's degree from Point Park University. It was a capstone program. I'm applying to be a funeral director and to start my apprenticeship here in the state of Ohio, the great state of Ohio. I'm originally from Toledo, I'm a T-Town boy. And I am currently trying to begin my apprenticeship at Bersker Scott Funeral Home in Toledo. When I had applied for my apprenticeship, there were some discrepancies from my past. And a few, actually one from the state of Georgia that I was unaware of, that had been over 13 years old, I do believe. It was driving without an operator's license, and my license was currently suspended. I horribly regret doing what I had done and making the decision that I had done. But I took care of it when I did find out about it immediately, and I cleared everything that I needed to clear through that state and the state of Ohio. And I know that there were other discrepancies with my past as well. And I don't want to make excuses for them. You know, I grew up a single mother with a single mother in a rough neighborhood, and you know, I felt like I was forced to either get rough or get roughed up, and I let that get the best of me, and I got out of hand of it. It got out of hand when I was in my teens. I'm now 36 years old here as of July 22nd, and I feel that I've made amends. I feel that I've righted a lot of my wrongs, educated myself, and I want to enter into this career because it's a very rewarding career and a very humbling career. And it's also something that I'm looking to expand into a family business, being that my fiance is fourth generation. And with that being said, I have nothing else left to say.
I have one question to clear one thing up so I understand it better, and then I'll leave it open to the board. On the warrant in Georgia, when the office checked, they said that the warrant was still outstanding. Has that been taken care of?
Yes, sir. I'm not sure when the last time was that it was checked, but I do have paperwork with me. It's not a certified letter, but I have sent a money order to their clerk, and they should be. I should be receiving it with sometime this week, the certified copy, and I have no problem providing that to the board if need be.
And that's the one for the outstanding was the one for 2003, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Does the board have any questions for Mr. Warren?
Do you regard this, if we go forward with this, do you regard it as a life changer for you?
Very much so. I worked very hard to get where I'm at. You know, it would be a very pivotal moment in my life, a very rewarding moment in my life. And you know, if it were to say go in my favor, I'd be very appreciative.
Any other questions or comments for? So, hearing no further discussion, just so I'm clear on this, Ms. Bachrader, we just need to make a motion then to,
If anyone wants to.
if anybody wants to. Okay.
I move we accept his application for apprenticeship.
It's been moved by Mr. Wapner that we accept Mr. Warren's application for a dual license apprenticeship. Is there a second?
Could I clarify, you mean grant his application?
Pardon?
Grant his application?
Grant, okay, that would probably be a better terminology. I move we grant his application for apprenticeship.
Very good. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Dotson. Any further discussion on the matter? If not, please call the roll.
Mr. Wapner, yes. Mr. Tannen?
Yes.
Mr. Dodson?
Yes.
Mrs. Pugh?
Yes.
Mr. Reddick?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Very good. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
We trust that we won't have to see you here again.
It will be in good
Except for a
favor the
visit.
next time you see me, sir.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I was going to suggest that you're more than welcome to hang out and watch us, but I'm sure that you've got much more important things to do. Feel free to leave. If you leave, you're not going to hurt our feelings.
That's quite all right. You know, when we were at PIMS, they had the PEDIA, the Pennsylvania board meeting at the school, and and I really took a liking to it. So I don't mind sticking around and soaking up some knowledge. I'm actually waiting on my boss to get here. He was supposed to be here, and I think he was just caught in traffic or whatnot, so I'm just gonna wait around for him, but.
All right, well, don't think you'll hurt our feelings if you leave.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Item number 3.02, recommendation to extend apprenticeship. I'm going to ask Ms. Clark to join us at the table because she is aware of a lot of this. Oh, did I? I'm sorry.
You skipped 3.01.
Oh,
You want to do that
Stacy.
first?
Let's do 3.01. This is a recommendation, recommended for licensure, that you should have the list in your agenda. So we're looking here for a motion to approve these licenses.
I so move to approve the licenses of
Mr. Wapner, is there a second?
Yes.
Seconded by Mrs. Spule. Any further discussion? If not, Mr. Wapner, would call the roll.
Mr. Reddick?
Yes.
Mr. Wapner? Yes. Mr. Tannen?
Yes.
Mr. Dodson?
Yes.
Mrs. Pugh?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Now, item number 3.02. This is a recommendation to extend the apprenticeship, and I'll give the board some history since I was the last one to interview this apprentice, and also then I'm going to ask Ms. Clark to enter into the conversation also, since she has worked with her. You have somewhat the whole history here in front of you in that, or Mrs. Clark, why don't you fill us in at this point? That'd be easier.
Well, Tracy's been trying to obtain her license for quite a few years. Actually, years ago, an apprentice had to do a full-time apprenticeship. They had to work 40 hours. And then the board decided to modify it to allow individuals that were working full-time but wanted to do this sort of on the side in the evenings, on the weekends. And so she's the one that sort of inspired the board to make that change. She's always wanted to be a funeral director, so she's been trying at it for quite a few years. She's been at 3 different funeral homes, and actually I handle more so the paperwork just to make sure that she's fulfilling all the requirements before I recommend her to the board for license. But the problem was determined by the inspectors, because when they send reports in quarterly, the inspectors in that particular county are the ones that review the reports. And they can look to see if, like Tracy's been, I think, serving an apprenticeship for about 2.5 years. But when her reports come in, if you look at them, you can see that she's not really getting the experience that she should have at this point. She should be much further along. And it was Mr. Seahouse that determined that there was a problem there. So you might want him to sort of fill in what he sees to be the problem with Tracy. But he's the one that brought it to our attention.
Sure.
Yeah, like Ms. Linda was saying, when the apprentice sends in their quarter reports to the office, it's just basically a task list that they fill out. Each category they mark they performed, assisted, observed, or no involvement. And with typically speaking, the longer the apprenticeship goes, you should be seeing on the task list more P's, or what I look for is more P's stating that they performed the task, which in my opinion means they've been growing and learning the funeral business. In the example of Tracy's, I didn't really see a whole lot of growth there, a whole lot of P's outside of the, basically had a lot of exposure to working funeral services. And outside of that, she didn't have a whole lot of recognizable growth, so that's why I decided to bring it to the attention and see if everybody else kind of was on the same page I was as far as her growth, so.
Appreciate that, and at that point, I was the licensee, board licensee that was assigned to interview her, which I did. Spent well over an hour talking with her. Very sincere lady who is trying very hard, but she's also having to work a full-time job and was trying to catch up during the summer months and was very interested in trying to get things finished up. And I believe she was supposed to be done, correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Clark?
She was scheduled to terminate August the 18th of this year.
August 18th. So, after a long conversation, I noted a couple of things with her. Number one, she has had to kind of move around, which has been unfortunate. So it meant kind of starting over with a lot of different people. Number two, I think they were very critical on some of the things on the list, and that I think she actually had a bit more experience in some of those things than we realized. And number three, I was a bit concerned that the master was fulfilling his or her, I don't know which, role in making this happen. There's a lot of responsibility there, obviously, for them to do that. So that's when I asked Mr. Seahouse to again go out there and meet with both the apprentice and the master. You seem to think that we kind of put our heads together, and she really hated to hear when I talked about a 1-year extension. I said, well, maybe 6 months, what do you think? It's up to the board, but she seemed to be very receptive to that. You have since spoken with her and the master, and so we would recommend, or I should say, I would recommend to the board then that we extend her apprenticeship by 6 months with the further stipulation that she have bi-monthly meetings with the inspector to gauge her progress, and number two, that she have quarterly meetings with a board member to further gauge her progress. So I would put that in the form of a motion. So we're looking for a second to that motion.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Tanev. Is there any further discussion? Any questions from the board on the procedure here, what we did and how we came to the conclusion?
Not a question, but I have to abstain is that I have a, well, personal relationship. She is a member of our church. I've known her and the family probably for about 15 years.
Okay.
That's good, we'll recuse you from the vote. Any other discussion? So in that case, I'd like the secretary to note that Mr. Dotson will be recusing himself from this matter.
So noted.
And if you would call the roll, Mr. Walker?
Mrs. Pugh?
Yes.
Mr. Reddick?
Yes.
Mr. Walker? Yes. Mr. Tanner?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. So, Ms. Clark, you will notify her, and if there's anything that she has further issues on, I know Mr. Sihas will be glad to work with her on that. Okay, thank you, and thank you for your extra help on that. Next thing on the agenda is item number 3.03, ratification of facility licenses. Has everyone had a chance to look at these? And in this situation too, I would ask Mrs. Pugh to recuse herself from this since the firm that she's employed with is on that list.
Do you need a motion?
I would love to have a motion.
So,
There's a motion by Mr. Tanev to ratify the list of facility licenses. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Mr. Wapner. Any further discussion? Again, reminding Mrs. Pugh that you can. Thank you. Will you call the roll, Mr. Walker?
Yes. Mr. Reddick?
Yes.
Mr. Wapner? Yes. Mr. Tanner?
yes.
Mr. Dotson?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Item number 3.04, no motion items. This is in front of the board, does not need any action, but if there's anything that you have any questions on, I'm sure we can ask staff to comment on that. Does anyone have any questions or comments about that listing? Okay, that's a no motion item, so we'll move right along. Continuing education, the list is before you in the, well, I'm sorry, 4.01 is an exemption. We need a motion to approve this. Stephanie L. Swager,
So moved.
is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Dodson. Any further discussion? Again, I'm going to ask you for a clarification. Exemption is where they are, is that the medical one or is that the?
No, it's not the medical one. Exemption, actually, that's what Danny handles, so let
Okay.
him answer that.
The exemption is where they, it's not medical related. Typically, people that are not practicing anymore will apply for an exemption.
Very
So they can't practice, they can't be a AIC. And then they have to make up the hours
Mhm.
if they want to come out of exemption, or retake the Ohio Law School's exam.
Oh,
Mr. Chairman,
yes.
again, you have no objection to this, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. I think I made the motion and it was seconded by Mr. Dotson.
Very good. So we have that motion on the floor then, that this be granted and seconded. No further discussion, then we'll call for the roll.
Mr. Tanner?
Yes.
Mr. Dotson?
Yes.
Mrs. Pugh?
Yes.
Mr. Reddick?
Yes.
Mr. Walker? Yes.
Motion's carried. Item number 4.02, continuing education programs, recommendation to approve. Again, these are listed for you. Mr. Finfrock, is there anything that we need to be worried about?
Everything is in order.
Everything is in order, okay.
Mr. Chairman, a motion to approve the continuing education programs.
Moved by Mr. Tanev to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mrs. Pugh. Any further discussion? We'll call the roll then, Mr. Walker.
Mr. Dotson?
Yes.
Mrs. Pugh?
Yes.
Mr. Reddick?
Yes.
Mr. Walker? Yes. Mr. Tanner?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Moving on then to compliance, ratification of settlement number 1. It is before you. What is the wishes of the board?
Mr. Chairman, does council have any input on this item?
Well, not on the substance of it, but I drafted the document, and it was, the substance of the offer was authorized by the president at the time.
Okay. And for expediency, I'm assuming that the ratification of settlements 1 through 5 are all reviewed by you and
Yes.
approved by you?
Yes.
And they were all negotiated by the previous president.
I'll make a motion that we ratify the right word, the settlement number 1 on
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for the roll.
Mr. Reddick,
Yes.
Mr. Wapner, yes. Mr. Tanner,
Yes.
Mr. Dodson,
Yes.
Mrs. Pugh.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. I lost it. Mr. Williams, how do we get back to board docs? Swipe it or? It won't let me off the settlement.
10, board docs.
Right there, okay, thank you, sorry. Ratification of settlement number 2.
I move that we approve ratification of settlement number 2.
Moved by Mr. Taniff, is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Mr. Wapner. Any discussion? Again, this was reviewed by council as to form and was approved by the president at the time. No further discussion, we'll call for the vote then.
Mr. Wapner, yes. Mr. Tanner,
Yes.
Mr. Dodson,
Yes.
Mrs. Pugh,
Yes.
Mr. Reddick.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. Settlement number 3. Now this one originally was shown without the attachment A, and that is now on there. It went out to you, but when it was presented for the first meeting, it didn't have that on there, so that is on there now. Because it's kind of a 2-part situation, I believe. And again, this one was also checks as to form and approved by the president. I have one question for council, and that is, there's a large restitution amount on here. How is that tracked, or who makes sure that that is taken care of?
Would be the board staff, but I honestly don't know who. Is it Jared? Would be Jared Williams.
Okay. So you monitor that and make sure that they are doing what is called for in here?
Once they ratify it, they're notified, and therefore they have the, whatever the term agreements are, as far as 60 days or 90 days to make the restitution. Yes.
Okay. And have they permanently surrendered their licenses? Yeah.
Well, it's not ratified yet, but only the funeral director, I think, was surrendering. The home was keeping its license.
Okay. All right. So you follow up on that too, then, that they surrender that license in a
Yes,
timely
that's-
fashion? Okay, very good. I'll move then that this settlement be accepted.
Second.
I heard Mr. Dotson, so I'll take him first because this year is better. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for the roll then.
Mr. Wapner? Yes. Mr. Tannen?
Yes.
Mr. Dotson?
Yes.
Mrs. Pugh?
Yes.
Mr. Reddick?
Yes,
Motion carries.
thank you. Number 4, my machine's moving slow, but I believe this is the second part of that, where the licensing may
I think this is,
Yes, there
we
you
just
go.
did 4, right? This is 5, or am I off?
3 is associated 4.
Yes, yeah, 3 or 4 together, because mine's not coming up, so
Okay. Yeah, mine's.
must be a biggie. But if you want to paraphrase that for us, go ahead, because ours isn't up yet.
Are you asking about 4 or 5? Mine's slow, so.
Number 4.
Number 4, okay.
It's just not loading.
Mine's still loading too.
It's very late.
I believe this is a consent agreement for an individual funeral director relating to the home that was involved in number 3. And this individual funeral director signed the name of a cremation authorization form without the authorization of the family.
Okay. I did read through that. So I am comfortable making a motion that. It says my connection has been lost, Jerry. Is that Safari?
Yeah. I'm in this up too.
But that's okay, we should just go back to this and see if it's
Right.
gonna work. Okay, very good. So I make a motion to ratify, or I should say I'm making a motion to ratify number 4 then. Settlement option number 4. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Tanev. Any further discussion? If not, we call the roll, Ms. Wagner.
Mr. Tannen?
Yes.